All right, welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and really excited about this next segment because it's incredibly important to know the different types of, not only the different types of demonic activity, but also how to deal with these things. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of cue it on over to Debbie. Thank you so much. We're so glad you're with us on the next right thing for the Catholic life.
We're so glad you're with us on the next right thing for the Catholic life. I'm Debbie Georgiani with Adam Blai. We are the co-hosts of The Spirit World, heard Saturdays right here on Guadalupe Radio Network. And Adam, we thought we would do the next right thing because this particular segment is all about what we can do next in our daily lives to make our life better in so many ways, and to understand things, and to have the passion and confidence and hope and joy and all the things of the fruits of the Spirit. So, Adam, we thought we would go back to the beginning because our Spirit World has been going strong for almost 2 years. And we want to make sure we catch up all of our listeners, especially here on the Morning Joy, our wonderful morning show each and every weekday here at Guadalupe Radio Network. So let's start at the beginning. Can you give us a little bit about your background in religious demonology?
Sure, Deb. So God basically pulled me into this world. Was started in kind of the world of adult clinical psychology and brainwave research, working in graduate school, and curious whether any of these odd experiences were artifacts of the brain or something genuine in terms of being a genuine spiritual phenomenon. And so, that started the journey of curiosity for me. And then God opened unusual doors in terms of meeting some exorcists that were operating at the time, and then being invited to join the International Association of Exorcists, and as a lay member, I'm a lay person, and to benefit from the wisdom and training of the guys in Rome who had 40 plus years under their belt, including Father Amorth, who was one of the founders of the organization. And then it kind of snowballed from there. We started doing national conferences here in the States because there was so few priests that were trained up in exorcism. It was very rare in those days. And the bishops have continued to ask me to help out. And so I found that doing some work with the public I thought was useful because through some hopefully good formation and information, we could stop a lot of cases before they ever start, because there's a lot of dangerous things that are being promoted these days. So, I'm still working full-time for the church, largely in this area. I go to exorcisms every week. I have for years and years and years, multiple every week. We train priests individually. I train at conferences and clergy days. I just got back from one, about 10 days ago. It was, wonderful. And so also by formal decree of my bishop. So that's the important thing from a canonical standpoint for the priests out there. I am declared a peritus of religious demonology and exorcism by decree of my bishop. And so that's kind of a formal church recognition of expertise.
Very good. Very good. And I studied angels for many, many years. Adam and I came together in ministry during conferences, and it's been wonderful. So we kind of joined the ministries together, and here we go. We have this Spirit World, and you guys seem to really love it. You've embraced it, and because of it, you've felt comfortable asking a lot of questions. And some of the questions you ask, or even some of the stories that you impart to us, have very detailed information about your daily life. Like, you will write in and say, my spouse is possessed. Can somebody help me? I think he's possessed, or I think she's possessed. Well, we're going to talk about that right now on the next right thing, because that is really not a healthy way to approach it and look at it. So Adam is going to break it down, and we really want to talk about it for our Morning Joy listeners. And Adam, we have the ordinary, which is temptation, and then the extraordinary, the types of demonic activity that you're going to talk about. So go through the different types for us so that we can put everybody at ease. They can see things clearly. They can rule out various things that are going on with people's lives, like brain health issues or something like that. They can get to medical doctors instead of signing up for, deliverance events and all sorts of events that are going to get people very confused when they don't understand what's going on in their own life. And that is the reason why this Saturday, folks, so please mark your calendars. We're going to be discussing it this Saturday. Are you spiritually prepared before you attend an event or training? What you need to know. So it's very important. And that's why we're doing this segment on The Next Right Thing about the types of demonic activity.
Yeah, Deb. So it's a trend that I'm seeing. Basically, people are receiving information from exorcists, from people that work in this area. And because they're members of the public, they don't have a theological background and training and formation in this area. They have the ideas they have from the movies that they've seen, kind of, in their memory. And they might have some websites that they've looked at or a few videos they've listened to. But they then map this information onto their own lives and reinterpret it. And it creates a lot of fear, and it's actually, created some strange things that have broken families up. It's been really destructive in some cases. So here's the important thing. The devil and the demons, yes, they're real. Yes, they're out there. But it's like bacteria. You learn at some point in your life that bacteria exists. As a child, maybe you didn't know that, and you learned it at some point, and you say, ooh, that stuff is everywhere. It's on every doorknob. It's on every chair that I sit on. Ooh, it's all over the school. But it was always there. And it didn't always make you sick. And now you know about it, and you can do things to avoid getting a bacterial infection. It's just like that. We don't need to, kind of get very upset and scared that we learn that demons are around. They've always been around. It's been part of our experience. Okay, that's first off. Secondly, the ordinary is temptation. We have that cradle to grave. It's part of life. God allows it. That's okay. Temptation leads to wisdom, and it leads to growing in spiritual strength. So we need that struggle, and that's why God allows it. Now, the extraordinary stuff that people often misunderstand, it's called extraordinary for a reason. It's not the norm. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not part of regular life. And for a lot of people to say, like, well, this person isn't acting the way I like, or their behavior has changed, and so they must be possessed, is really a real misuse of these ideas. So, the 4 types of extraordinary demonic activity is infestation, oppression, and possession. Now, sometimes it's broken down into obsession, oppression, and possession, but that's basically the types. Now, what do those mean? Infestation of a home is when the demons have been given the right to do extraordinary things in the home, like manifest as strange black shadows you can't explain, terrible odors that can't be debunked or taken out of the situation, stuff flying around, holy things being attacked or damaged, people having the repetitive demonic nightmares when they're in the home, fights breaking out only when you're there, but when you leave, everything is fine. These are some of the typical things. This is resolved with a house exorcism, thorough house blessing, generally not too hard, and it's the person in authority over the home that has to ask for those things. It's all about authority. Okay. Oppression or obsession, depending on how you translate the Latin obsessio, is basically a personal attack, Deb. Now, it's a personal attack on an extraordinary level. So it's, ugly stuff. We don't need to get into all the details, but, it can involve punching, biting, scratching, other assaults on the body from something invisible that you can't see. It can involve really horrible temptation that becomes almost obsessive, where it becomes almost impossible to get it out of your mind, very hard to resist. Again, repetitive nightmares without any normal dreams going on, different issues. This follows dabbling in the occult, playing around with black magic, doing spirit communication like in ghost hunting. It doesn't just come out of the blue for no reason. And here's the thing, Deb, it's critical. People do this all the time. They go from, okay, I'm having some strange experiences that are negative. I just jump to the conclusion it's spiritual and say I need to find a priest to do these prayers and that'll make the problem go away. Skipping the medical hypothesis and the psychological hypothesis. That's a real big error, because at least 80 to 90% of these cases are psychological or medical. But when you skip those treatments, you could leave something untreated that then progresses and gets worse as a medical or psychiatric problem. So it's a big issue. Don't jump to the spiritual hypothesis. You can get prayer, sure, but also be talking to the doctor, ruling out the medical, exploring the possible psychological. Now, possession is a really rare thing, okay? So now you're talking very rare. And what I mean by that is like maybe, 1 or 2 new cases in a major city in a year being presented to the church that are real. So thinking that, I know 3 different people that are possessed, that type of thing, that would be extremely unusual. It's not common, incredibly rare. It, again, follows serious involvement in black magic, basically that there are a few other routes to get there. They're too ugly to talk about on the radio, but understand that they are not just somebody's behavior changing. And it's not just dabbling a little bit in things. You have to have an act of the will that you say yes to the demonic, that you ask for that essentially, usually cutting a deal or in exchange for something, or you just go so deep with a relationship with the spirit that you might even think isn't your friend, but they're not. That when you get to that point, they turn on you and they start controlling you, and the person then comes to the church. But again, the critical thing is this is rare. You got to rule out the medical and psychological, and just somebody's behavior changing or their attitude changing doesn't mean that there's an extraordinary demonic problem. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And when we come back, we're going to hit the pause button in just a moment and send it back to Keith Downey, our wonderful host of Morning Joy. But when we come back for the final segment for today, for the Next Right Thing, I want to talk about this deliverance ministry or training that a lot of people are signing up for. There's nothing against it, right? We can do that, but maybe you can explain a little bit better. Should we make sure we definitely check out and go to medical professionals to make sure if there is a brain health issue happening or something of that nature, and to take care of that? It's very important. So this is a very deep topic. I know we're getting a lot of emails coming in about this, so please stay with us on The Next Right Thing. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much, Debbie and Adam. I really loved how Adam compared demons to bacteria. Like, the first time we find out about bacteria, it's everywhere. And then you kind of realize, okay, well, there's things we can do to prevent getting sick. So love that. And I was just thinking too, my first knee-jerk reaction when something weird is happening in my house, like for instance, I put my baby down for bed a few years back, and I turned off the lights, and then for whatever reason, I went back into the room and the light was on. I'm like, this is weird because the switch is off. What is going on here? Then I realized I'm just a bad homeowner. The switch needed to be replaced. So I think Hollywood has done a good job, bad thing, of sensationalizing these types of things. And thank goodness we have Adam to help us parse through some of these odd things. So stay tuned. We'll come back after the break with The Next Right Thing.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.
I once had a gentleman come up to me and say he didn't think the principle of non-contradiction was true, that perhaps something could be and not be in the same respect at the same place and time. Now, skepticism doesn't get any more radical than this. The principle of non-contradiction is the principle upon which all human knowledge is based. So, how do we defend it? It's pretty simple. A skeptic can only speak against the principle if his words have the intended meaning and not the opposite. For example, if a skeptic says the principle is false, well, then he must intend the statement to mean what it expresses and not the opposite, namely, the principle is true. But this presupposes the principle and thus undermines his attempt to deny it. So a skeptic can't deny the principle of non-contradiction without ending in self-defeat. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Hi, Julie Carrick here. I am delighted to be the host of We Sing Our Faith. This weekly program shares beautiful Catholic music and deep insights of many Catholic teachings. Join me on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock Central Time for We Sing Our Faith here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock Central Time, We Sing Our Faith.
All right, welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in back to the topic at hand, the different types of demonic activity. Debbie Dam, take it away.
Okay, we are back on the next right thing, and Adam, get into a little bit about deliverance ministry and training. You have nothing against that, right? We can go to these trainings and go to these events where there's a trained expert in the area of deliverance and ministry work, and they can usually it's by a priest, right? And so share a little bit about that, but also bring it back home, because the Spirit World listeners, they're wonderful, and they have contacted us, and they've said that we've noticed changes in our spouse or adult children that have moved back home, and something's wrong. Maybe they're attached to the occult, or there's a behavioral change in them. And I really think, like what you're saying, Adam, there needs to be a comprehensive approach on this, not just quickly go to the demons and say, oh, there must be some kind of demonic attachment. So explain it a little bit more, and we will be covering it in depth this Saturday. So that's good.
Sure, Deb. So, what I've come to understand over the years of doing this is deliverance, freedom from this unusual demonic activity. It's all about your conversion and your relationship with God and moving towards a deeper relationship with God. It's not about getting the special prayer from the special priest who has a gift for this, and that's going to make my problems go away. The foundation of deliverance for the Christian, and particularly for the Catholic Christian, is the sacramental graces. They have to be in place. That is the primary way that grace moves into your life. You can't say, I haven't been to Mass in 10 years, I haven't gone to confession in 15 years, nor am I going to go, but I want these special prayers, and that's going to make everything better. You have to get your life in order, your spiritual life in order, and get the sacramental graces as the foundation of that pyramid. Those kind of presume being in a state of grace. That means avoiding committing sins against the Ten Commandments and maintaining that control over those sins, okay, and avoiding those. So sacramental graces is the base of the pyramid. After that, you have your prayer life. That has to be something that is developed. It doesn't have to be 12 hours a day. It doesn't even have to be an hour a day for the lay person. But you need to have some prayer life that is balanced and healthy, not just deliverance prayers and not just talking to God about demonic problems, but a balanced prayer life that involves thanksgiving to God, giving glory to God, praying for other people in your life in addition to praying for these things. So a prayer life is the next level of the pyramid. Then we can add sacramentals, things like holy water, blessed Saint Benedict medals, a blessed crucifix, holy images in our homes, that type of thing. Then finally, at kind of the narrow part of the pyramid at the top, you can start talking about deliverance and exorcism prayers. If you're not doing the work of getting your spiritual life in order and doing all the other aspects of the basic Catholic Christian life, it doesn't make sense to then go to the deliverance seminar and expect everything to be resolved. Jesus wants your conversion. He wants your trust in him. He wants you moving towards him. He wants you participating with his church and interacting with him through his church and through a personal relationship with him. So that, in my experience, is what Jesus wants before a person is completely freed of a problem. Now, I'm not saying the person's problem is demonic. Like I said, 80 to 90% of the time, it's medical or psychological. What I'm saying is, if it's demonic, if you don't do that basic work, basically don't expect God to take away the problem if you're not willing to do your work and change your life for the better in terms of conversion. So that would be the preparation, I would say, before engaging in kind of deliverance sessions, healing masses, even, heavy deliverance prayers where maybe exorcism is going on. And if you're working with an exorcist, they're going to have told you these things. They're going to say you need to get your life in order, you need to get a prayer life going, as much as you can, get to the sacraments and those type of things. Does that make sense, Deb?
Absolutely. So my takeaway for this, the next right thing, is work to get in a state of grace. Have a plan in place for yourself to get there with prayer and the sacraments. We are a sacrament-rich church, Adam, and it's so important we start living our faith. Come off of the bleachers, folks. Don't be a spectator. Don't be observing. Get in the game. It's very, very important. And so that would be the next right thing. That's my takeaway, Adam. And it's wonderful to go to these trainings and things that can really help us understand better the generational or demonic attachments that people enter into through the occult or through the Masons or something of that nature, and to be freed from all that. That is good to be wanting to be freed from that. But you've said it before, Adam, real quickly. One good confession really, does a lot, and that's important to get us in the proper state of grace and to free us from those past things. A little bit about confession, real fast.
Yeah. So, in my experience, Deb, and I work on very serious cases all the time. It doesn't take a big elaborate prayer or a big elaborate ritual to renounce these connections that maybe an ancestor did through Freemasonry or other things. It's as simple as, in your own words, saying, Lord, I don't want any part of any commitments my ancestors made on my behalf. I reject all that. Take it away. I only want you in my life, Jesus. Thank you. And then when it comes to confession, super critical in terms of one of the two big sacraments for the person seeking deliverance is confession and the Mass. Eucharist is the source of any and all graces that any person needs. Confession solves so many more cases than exorcism does. Confession is stopping problems before they get severe and they get to the edge of that cliff that they're going to fall over into this extreme problem. Confession, if you will just go to confession honestly, engage in it fully, it's going to stop problems before they start, and that will stop many problems, even that have started to become a little bit extraordinary. If you fully engage in the sacraments, that deliverance comes from Jesus in many ways, and confession and repenting to Jesus is a big one of them.
Amen to that. So the next right thing, look up online at your parish and get to confession. Okay, please do that. And it's a healing sacrament. It's amazing. Tomorrow, we're going to open up the phone lines bright and early if you have something to say about this topic. And we're also going to be discussing it this Saturday on the Spirit World Live here on Guadalupe Radio Network, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So you can join us there. You can ask your question or comment. Adam, I really appreciate that we took this time for our Morning Joy listeners to go over the types of demonic activity. I think it was very helpful to many, and so we appreciate this time. So with that, Adam, unless you have any final comments, I'm going to send it back to the news desk where Keith Downey, our wonderful host, is. We're traveling along the road to sainthood, Adam, with the Holy Spirit as our guide, and I just love that Keith is taking us on this journey each and every day here on Morning Joy. So, and I feel very grateful to everyone that you've embraced this show and everybody's jumping on board. We've got a lot of contributors and we get to do the next right thing every day. And twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, we open up the phone line. So please make sure you get your call in or your comment in either online or call us. Okay, with that, we're going to send you back to Keith, and we'll be listening now to Morning Joy.
Awesome. Thank you.